Hello, this is Jay Mitchell, and we are back with another episode of the Libertarian Uncensored podcast, going over all the posts on the Libertarian Uncensored subreddit. So first we have the story of Chaz, Seattle's failed anarchist comedian from Flobbles on YouTube, and I posted that, and I said, this is what happens when you let LARPing woke Redditors run the place. And yeah, I would agree with that. The thing is that I think, it's just to show you that, they became what they hated. They killed an unarmed black boy because they felt they felt threatened. That's why they were protesting, because an unarmed black guy was killed, but they did it themselves. And just go to show you that whenever someone gets positions whenever someone has the force of the state on their side, they'll use it even if they're self-proclaimed anarchists. So that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Let's Talk About Texas and Chains of Command from Boa, the fifth column on YouTube. I was posted by Anarcho Federation. And they said, so basically this was Texas pretending to be capable of anything and failing Missouri for governors, police stunts to avoid consequences for their poor policies. And I think, I think Texas should be able to do whatever it wants personally. I'm pro nullification all the way down to the individual level. If Texas doesn't think a policy from the federal government is unjust, I think they should have the right to nullify it. And if the U.S. if individuals in Texas feel differently, I think they should have the right to nullify their nullification as well. Then we have Face the Nation was a Nikki Haley love fest this morning. Nearly half of their posts were about her. Vivek might be onto something, from Chief Nerd on Twitter, and I posted that, and I said, Haley is going back to the George W. Bush, McCain/Romney neocon shit that got us here in the first place. This is why the alphabet media love her. Then we have most Democrats I think they're more informed than the Republicans, but they're actually just more indoctrinated. From Hannah Cox on Twitter, and I posted that, and I said, it's best to look at politics as the adult version of Simon Says, only instead of Simon, it's the party and their media doing the saying. Then we have Allentown official video from Billy Joel on YouTube, and I posted that, and I said, I always thought that this song was kind of libertarian. It's about how the working class common man has been screwed over by the elite ruling class. You can still see these songs being released and becoming popular 40 years later. Look at Richmond, North of Richmond. It proves that the problem is a lot older than people think. As for the song's subject matter, I think it's the one that really gets at one of the biggest issues that leads to so much political strife these days. Decline manufacturing U.S., which came as a result of environmental regulations from the government and big business owners finding cheaper overseas labor elsewhere. I would even argue that the transition from a primarily manufacturing economy to primarily retail and service one is probably one of the biggest overlooked issues of our time in regards to economics. And I also added, it's people like Joel's character in the music video that become so desperate for any shock to the system whatsoever that they end up as Trump supporters, and that's why I think you see a lot of support for him, because he's being markets himself as being against the system, and that the system's after all the legal cases it does. Personally, I think he's probably more part of the system than he isn't, but that's why I think a lot of people justify supporting him. I personally think he's just part of the system, though. That's my thoughts on that issue. And we have Republican voters told Vivek that they don't vote for him because of his skin color, from Clorox, and that's a cross post from the Leopards Ate My Face subreddit. And it's a tweet from Amanda Turkle, who tweeted, Ramaswamy's wife asked voters what they're hearing about about why they're not supporting Vivek. One response, I couldn't even remember who said it to me, but they mentioned his dark skin and think he's Muslim. Another voter asked her, how long have you been in the United States? Were you born here? And yeah, I personally do think there are racists, but I definitely do think, younger people are definitely going to be more supportive of Vivek as, the older races start to die out, and people like Vivek are going to become I think Vivek is definitely pushing the GOP in the right direction rhetorically. Now, governing, I think he'll probably he's more of a stabby in the backhand. But I definitely do think he is definitely pushing a lot of people in the more libertarian direction. How he's saying get rid of the FBI and all that, even though he's endorsing Trump. He's endorsed Trump now, and yeah. So that's my thoughts on that issue. Yeah, because I do think I do think the racism in the GOP is overblown, but I guess we'll just have to see what happens on the regards to that front. Then we have how is Libertarian Uncensored feeling about the civility rule from Ninja Lover, and they posted some text about it. I said voted for the latter. Yeah, as in get rid of it. I said it's insane if you ask me that the subreddit, which claims to be uncensored, has more rules listed as on sidebar than subreddit that doesn't claim to be uncensored. So that just goes to show you that they say it's uncensored, but it's got 10 rules on sidebar. I think that's too many for some place that deems itself to be uncensored. But that's just my thought on that issue. Then we have Happy MLK Jr. Day from Clorox. And they said, the ultimate tragedy is not that oppression and cruelty by the bad people, it's silence over that by the good people. Martin Luther King Jr. Something to think about the next time you're listening to someone rant about wokeness or LGBTQ people or immigrants. And Willpower 69 said, has anyone seen any conservatives claim MLK Jr. would support Republicans yet? And I said, MLK Jr. was born in the South in 1929 and wasn't known to have been that fond of the gays. I definitely don't think he'd be the progressive hero you're thinking of if he's alive today, So that's my thought on that issue, I definitely would disagree with MLK Jr. economically. I think he was kind of a Marxist or socialist or communist or whatever. But I definitely do agree with him kind of more socially, because he was pushing for a post-racial world, which we were almost said. I think the Democrats were pushing that in like 2010, but then Occupy Wall Street happened. They need a new way to divide the people. So that's why you have all this identity politics these days, and everyone at each other's throat all the time over racial and LGBTQ issues, I think. Then we have 4 Years and Beyond, and that is a tweet from American Bridge, and they said Trump lets his authoritarian hopes about this afternoon. He says he'll be president for 4 years and beyond. And I said, that's why I put on 13, by the way. I said Trump's going to be 82 in 2028, and most people are already kind of done with him anyway. I don't see it happening. Then we have r/Libertarian Uncensored discusses and grades the U.S. Vice President's number 3, Aaron Burr. And I said, since President's Day is just over a month away, I wanted to do something related to the presidents, but since we already discussed and graded all the U.S. presidents in the last year's presidents, I thought we would look over another variety of presidents this year, the vice ones. Also, since we covered them last year, we'll be skipping over the ones who later became president, which means we will be starting with Burr. Honestly, I think that Burr is probably one of the great unsung libertarian heroes of U.S. history. I think a country with a strong Federalist Party would have resulted in a society that is far less libertarian than what we have currently, and Burr is probably the one that was the greatest responsible for their demise when he killed one of its most prominent members, Alexander Hamilton, in a duel. As bad and libertarian as things get, just remember that the timeline where Hamilton wins that duel is probably far worse than the one we currently live in. Sadly, due to his unpopularity as a result of the duel and potentially trying to start his own country, Thomas Jefferson replaced him as vice president with George Clinton, the governor of New York, not the funk musician, for his second term. Final grade A-. So that's my thoughts on that issue, yeah. And we have Equality, the Unknown Ideal from Roderick T. Long from Mises.org by Anarcho Federation. And they said, as far as I can tell, the wording was changed for stylistic reasons rather than substantive ones. The final draft is flowing more smoothly, but the original draft is more philosophically precise. By contrast with the final draft, where equality and liberty are presented simply as two fundamental principles, their relation to one another left unclear. In the original draft, the value of liberty is explicitly said to be secondary to and derived from the value of equality. And I personally think if people want to be equal, I think they should be able to, but I don't think they should force everyone to be equal. I think that's more equity, and I don't think that's very libertarian. I think everyone should be equal in the eyes of, negative freedoms. The state shouldn't be taking away anyone's freedoms. But I think when it comes to positive freedoms, I don't know if if some people should get special privileges over others in regards to that front, because I think that's kind of forcing equity. and that's why you have stuff like identity politics popping up and people hiring people of certain races and sexual orientations over other races and people of race and sexual orientations. So that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Iowa caucus Libertarian Party results. 96 out of 99 counties reporting across from Libertarian Party USA subreddit. And I posted that. And Chase Oliver won with 40.7% of the vote to Michael Rectenwald's 17.44%, Mike Dermatt's 13.95%, Joshua Shipsmith's 13.95%, Vic Ramaswamy's 4.65%, Mario Perales 2.33%, Robert Sensen 2.33%, Jacob Hornberger 1.16%, Lars Mapstead 1.16%, or Oliver 1.16%, and none of the above 1.16%. And I said, this was the first LP caucus in Iowa. It's also important to remember that unlike the duopoly parties, caucuses, and primaries, the result from the LP and other third party caucuses and primaries are non-binding, meaning that the delegates of Iowa at the National Convention are not going to be automatically awarded to Oliver. Then I posted, when a policy gets labeled as progressive, it pretty much becomes unbeatable. And I said, I was just having a discussion about it, and I thought I would share it here as well. The example I gave is that a segregated prime Mississippi, done for the wrong reasons, quote-unquote wrong reasons, will be seen as differently than one done in Massachusetts for the quote-unquote right reasons. It's really all about framing and spin. When policies marked as progressive, leftist people are going to eat it up. When the exact same policies marked as conservative, suddenly leftist people think it's the worst thing ever. False. And yeah, I definitely I definitely do think, you know, you know, that just goes to show you that, it really is just all framing and spin when it comes to that stuff. And, ultimately, if a policy gets progressive, it's labeled as progressive, those on social media and the alphabet media won't let you, the narrative won't be able to turn against it, even if it's something bad like segregation. Like, they have the segregated holiday party in Massachusetts, or the segregated graduation at UCal Berkeley, where they have the black only and the elected of color party. And I personally think that just goes to show you that, the narrative it will just endorse whatever they can say anything, and people go along with it as long as it's marketed correctly. Then we have the massive and historic size of Trump's victory should lead to some self-reflection about what caused the complete collapse of faith in the legitimacy of U.S. institutions of authority and justice, whereby voters so easily disregard 4 felony cases as irrelevant if not an asset. From Glenn Greenwald on Twitter, and I posted that, and I said, Iraq War, U.S. intervention in Libya, the list is pretty much infinite. Sadly, I think Trump is as much as part of the system as the rest of them. But, as I talked about earlier, you got songs like Richmond or Allentown, what do those people have to lose? That's why I think the ISC has so much support. They have people, it's from people who have nothing else to lose, and they're desperate to have for a political savior. Just like, I think that's a lot of people, I think that's a lot of people on the left as well. They want a political savior, but that's the thing. You can't just have a political savior. For a lot of people, the church has become the state, and that's why increasingly politics are increasingly toxic, because people want to enforce all their beliefs and want the government to enforce it all on the world as well. Then we have r/Libertarian Uncensored discusses and engraves U.S. Vice Presidents. Number 4, George Clinton. And I said, one of the only 2 vice presidents to serve under the more than one president, the other being John C. Calhoun. He served for Thomas Jefferson's 2nd term and James Madison's 1st term, before becoming the first vice president to die in office during the latter. Arguably, his biggest role as vice president was when he casted an important tie-breaking vote that prevented the recharter of the First Bank of the U.S., the Federal Reserve at the time. So I have to give him props to that. Also, he apparently tried to next Vermont when he was governor of New York, so that's interesting as well. Madison replaced him with the governor of Massachusetts, Elbridge Gerry, namesake of gerrymandering, for his next term, when she went over to Whit Clinton, George's nephew. Final grade A-. That's my thoughts there. Then we have Iowa entrance polls. 66% don't believe Biden legitimately won the election, from CNN.com by Dr. Who 07. And I said, I would be interested to see what the entrance poll from the 2020 Iowa Dem caucus would be in regards to the same question about Trump in the 2016 election, because, the Dems constantly push the narrative that Trump only won because of Russian interference, and they put the Mueller report to no end. To say otherwise is revisionist history. Then we have honest question from All About Trade lawsuits, and they said fundamentally, what prevents one private party from confiscating property from another, if not some sort of government or another stronger hierarchical force? And I said, ultimately, all power does come from raw physical force. It's why the state finds it very important to have a monopoly on the legal use of it. Then we have, where's my 10K for student debt that you rode to the polls? And it's a meme of Joe Biden, and he's pressing two buttons. Help with student debt, housing your healthcare is one button, and then he's pressing the other one, bomb Yemen. And then he's putting the tissue on the napkin on his head, wiping off the sweat. And I said, responding to more of the post title, going to Israel and Ukraine, that's another thing. It's not just bombing Yemen. There's the U.S. is throwing money all over the world. But it can't help its own citizens. It has to go do stuff like bomb Yemen or help Israel invade Gaza or help Ukraine and its fight against Russia. That's my thoughts about that issue. Then we have, of course, Donald Trump is a fascist. Let's count the ways from LGBTQNation.com by FuckTimBack6969. And I said, to be fair, they pretty much all are fascists. I'm not praising him. I'm saying the rest of the Union Party elites are fascists as well. And yeah, so that's my thoughts on that issue. They're pretty much all authoritarian fascists who want to do nothing than to rule over you. And Trump's just not as good at hiding it, I think. Then we have Kentucky Republican pushes bill to make sex with first cousin not incest from Newsweek.com. Is this the slippery slope we always hear about LGBTQ issues? And that's from Kage blah blah blah. And I said, I personally think as long as it's consensual and everyone involved is of age, that incest is a victimless crime. I think that's the libertarian perspective. Then we have Idaho Republicans push bill that could label gay book characters sexually explicit from Advocate.com by Kage blah blah blah. And I said, it's apparently it only applies only to minors, but I said, it's still fascism by Reddit standards. If you want to see what the press narrative around parental rights in regards to public schools is, look up the parental rights movement page of Wikipedia and scroll down to the categories that's pages on the bottom. You get such gems as far right politics in the United States, transphobia in the United States, and alt-right. Terry McAuliffe really put it in the most non-discreet way possible when he said during the 2021 Virginia gubernatorial election, parents should have no role in their children's education. And that's increasingly they want the state to have all the role in children's education, and that's why increasingly you can't question that without them coming after you for it. So that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have the 8 Degrees of Ignorance and Stupidity from JonathanTurley.org by Clorox. And I said not a source I would expect to see from me because Jonathan Turley criticizes a lot of the Biden administration's stuff like how lax they're on the border, but ultimately I think people should be able to share whatever sources they want. I think, and I also think people should be able to be ignorant and stupid as they want to be, as long as they're not hurting anyone else. So that's my thoughts on that issue. And then we have Libertarian Discord server from MagicMan24, and that's nice. I personally don't really like to use Discord too much, but it's nice that they have a nice Discord server there. Then we have Rule 9 updated for clarity from Ninja Lover, and they said Rule 9 was a rule imposed on us by the Reddit admins. Rule 9 was updated to read as follows: respect other subs, no linking to r/libertarian, crosswords from that sub will be removed, don't discuss that sub at all, any mention of the sub will be removed. Regarding other subs, don't brag about being banned from them, don't talk negatively about other subs, their users or their mods. You can crosswords from subs, but must be respectful of the sub. And I guess that's okay, if it's being forced on them by the admins, I guess they really have no other choice. Then we have Just Choose Your Masters already stop being on the fence from Tequila Mockingbird, and that's a crossword from the New Left Libertarian subreddit, and it's the communist guy. He says workers don't understand how to build a revolution, so they need a vanguard party. And then there's the businessman. He says workers don't understand how to run a business, so they need me to manage. And I guess ultimately, if people want to have a boss or a trusted political party, I think they should be able to. But ultimately, I think they should just have freedom of association to do whatever they want in regards to business, I would say. So that's my thoughts on that issue. I'm going to check see if we have any new posts. Looks like we don't, and I think we're going to wrap up there. I'll see you guys next episode. Bye.